Live here in a second. We are live on YouTube. Hopefully, that's how I had it set up. So, have not seen the thing in the corner there. So please, if you are seeing us live, let us know. I'm going to double check YouTube to be safe. Zach. Oh no, I see the little eyeball thing. All right, we're good. So Drew, we can filibuster for a minute before we get some viewers in here. But
Sure.
Welcome. Before anyone gets in, we can talk about our disaster of a team, the Cleveland Browns.
I was wondering if you're going to bring that up. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's rough. So it's a team loss, I would say.
Yeah, and the harsh part was just for the ending. Everybody coming so harsh on Chubb, which I thought that was kind of ridiculous. I mean, he did it in the one game against Texas a couple of years ago, which made sense going down. But, he thought the game was over, which it should have been.
Yeah, I'd say a win percentage of 99.9% should not be blamed on the guy that got you to that point. So we'll end the football talk there. We got some people in the room now. So welcome, everyone. This is the AEW Dynamite Grand Slam preview show. We do not have Pat McAfee here, even though he's on every show ever. If you watch college football or SmackDown, he's all over the place. So, and Matt on the channel here, we're talking about American football, Matt, not real football. So that's what we're talking about there. So, but we're here to preview Dynamite Grand Slam. I'm your host, Tyler Sage at Ring of Tyler, and I'm joined by my fellow Ohioan, my good friend, who we've had some fun times, I guess, in the wrestling world outside of the state of Ohio. It's been an interesting event we went to at the first Double or Nothing, not the event itself, but that was very fun. But yeah, for sure. But my wife's good friend Ron Funches was there as well. So if you want to put two and two together, you can decide what happened there. But Drew, hello. Do a quick intro of yourself, and then at the end, again, we'll give you all your time to get your stuff over. But tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Hey, first time, a long time, I guess I would say. Big wrestling fan. At Drew Ortman on Twitter, just to throw that out there. From Ohio. Try to watch as much wrestling, go to as much wrestling as possible, and been a subscriber to the Torch for years and years now.
Very cool. Yeah, and good to have you. We got people joining in here, but let's see. As Zach is always the better host than I am, I'm always the guy to kind of shoot from the hip. So I'm going to pull up. Do you have the card off the top of your head? I mean, we can start at first here. I'm sure we'll circle around to it as well. But, we have our main event. We have Jon Moxley taking on Bryan Danielson. Just your initial top-line thoughts as I pull up the rest of the card for tonight's show.
If that was the match and the rest of the card were like dark matches, I think it would still be okay. Because I think that match is going to there's no doubt it's going to be spectacular, I think.
Yeah, and sorry, I'm pulling up here as I'm a man and cannot multitask. Okay.
I was trying to, funny enough, I was trying to look up the card on AEW's website earlier, and it's
always a bad
awful.
If you're trying to look up on their YouTube, or on their Twitter, on their website, anything, you got to go to great sites like PWTorch.com to get the cheap plug in there. But
exactly.
Okay, so that's our main event, obviously. Now AEW is a little different, right? Do you think that this will be a traditional main event that will, within AEW, main events typically start about 9:40, 9:45 Eastern? Do you think we'll get something similar here? Will we open the show, have a long match, or will we start around 9:30, 9:35 with this main event, in your opinion?
I think this one will go on later. Like you said, they've been trying to come out the gates with some good starter matches to open the show here lately, just as kind of a exciting moment. But I think this one will probably go on later.
Okay. And we already have some picks, so please give your picks in the chat here. We got Amos is going with Danielson for the win. I have, but look, this is, sorry, as I tangent, here's some defense from Matt that multitasking is impossible. We are not quantum computers. We are binary beings of zeros and ones. So in theory, but yeah, so we'll go through on these channels. I've laid out my reasoning why I think Jon Moxley will win tonight, but I'm curious, Drew, who you think is going to win the main event and why?
This was a tough one to think about, but I agree. I think Moxley will go with it, even if it's just like the unexpected continuation of a title reign. Like he was the guy that they were going with when Punk was out, and then it was almost immediately Punk out again. So I think it's almost just like continuing that momentum with it, with the belt on him.
Yeah, I mean, and there's lots of things. We had Amos's pop up here. We had Hazan is Brian with help from Garcia. We got Matt is going Moxley, but Moxley for the win. He's not sure. And then it's Hazan again. Garcia get it with some fashion. But yeah, I mean, I think this is like, my big critique of AEW in the recent months, even before the brawl backstage, was the meta complaining and people being unhappy, getting into the show itself, getting into promos, not really in an MJF fashion, but just in like everything they were doing felt meta. And in this, I think I'm going to flip that on its head, right? Because John Moxley had the promo right after that, 3 days after the brawl, saying, he said he was the heart and soul in previous times in AEW, and he came out and did that mission statement and kicked MJF off the stage. And, it was just like, hey, I'm AEW, you're AEW. Let's ride on my back, basically, and go all the way through. And I think that sort of meta narrative is kind of what AEW needs as a stability standpoint, and just makes sense because I think if CM Punk was not CM Punk, I think Moxley would have held that title based on the run he was on at that time. So
absolutely. And, it has to be driving them nuts because it seemed like at the beginning of the promotion, it was a real MO for them to have, the long title reigns, champions, at least for the big title, having champions that'll hold it for a while and really put some prestige to their run in the championship. But then everything just kind of got tossed on its head. So this would kind of realign that whole thing, getting Moxley back in the fold. Plus, I think a Moxley MJF program would work a lot better than Brian Danielson MJF program.
Mm-hmm. Tracy chiming in. She's Team Positive Momentum / Team Mox. So, I mean, I think on that point, I agree with you that the MJF Moxley feud makes a lot more sense to me than Danielson and MJF. But, we've seen 2 years ago was a pandemic feud between Moxley and MJF. So,
right.
But that's a long time ago. It makes more sense with the story that MJF is trying to tell. The one problem I see with that, because that would inevitably, I think, lead to the Revolution pay-per-view. That's the next one, right? It was a Full Gear. Full Gear. The next, yeah, Full Gear, then Revolution. So for Full Gear, it seems obviously MJF and whoever wins tonight would be the top of the card. And at this point, with MJF being gone so long and being essentially the focal point of the product without having a match since he's been back, do you then have him defeat Moxley, aka the heart and soul of the company, and have MJF, who is oddly cheered, probably get cheered a ton tonight if he is on the screen? Does that concern you as a viewer and analyzing just the state of AEW?
No, not concerning. I think MJF is getting so much momentum that, of course, he's going to get cheered and be that what would you call a babyface heel of sorts. I don't think making him a babyface by any means anytime soon would be productive, but I think if it goes into Full Gear with, like, say, the Moxley MJF match, I mean, it'd be kind of tough to blow it off there with both of them. That might be something you can even carry to the next pay-per-view after that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and as AEW's shown a lot, they'll do a pay-per-view and then they'll have 6 weeks in between. That kind of in-between period is like a big show. This is a little earlier. The Grand Slam, you can only get certain dates probably for Arthur Ashe before it gets too cold in New York City as well, and after the U.S. Open, obviously. So one thing that concerns me that Amos has written in here, Tony teased a musical performance tonight, which I have not heard of. Are you aware of this?
No, not at all.
Let's hope not. Because if there's anything in wrestling, I think we can all agree on is that usually live wrestling performances suck. They're usually no offense to anyone's musical preference that's out there, but usually some kind of butt rock. So, not downstate, probably not downstate because those are Cody's guys, but something like that. So, or it's a rapper that maybe people don't know. And then
was that the Garcia one, right?
Yeah. In Buffalo that absolutely no one knew who that guy was. And it hit, or Brian Danielson's weird friend.
Oh yeah.
not weird. I don't know the guy, but him coming out and singing, it was a weird moment. So let's hope that we avoid that as well.
Watching that with one or two people that didn't watch wrestling and just happened to be there, that was an odd moment for answering a question.
Yeah. Well, did they say did they think he was like someone doing a Machine Gun Kelly impersonation? Because
that's that was actually what was brought.
Yeah. And I was like, he doesn't have. He's got like. He needs 150 more tattoos to be. He needs the big I-71 tattoo on his arm. So respect to to I-71 there. But let's see. Oh, we got a long one here. So Amos teased MJF teasing, going for the belt. We're gonna get another program between whoever does win tonight and someone else. So that would be interesting. I don't know what the timeline on that would be, but I think there is. I don't know. I mean, what would you put? Like, we both are going with Moxley, but are you like super confident? Like, what's your percentage chance? I think most episodes of Dynamite, most matches, I feel about 98 to 99% sure on almost every match that happens. And I think that's one of the strengths of AEW is that it's good enough to know what's going to happen. And then when you have truly 50-50 matches, so I'm kind of leading you with that question there. But what's your percentage breakdown on your ability? You think Moxley's going to win here? What's the?
I wouldn't go anywhere. I'm pretty confident, but still with that just being Danielson, I would have to no higher than 70% for this one. And I agree with you where most matches, I can usually go 90-95% sure I know what's going to happen.
And I would say you're slightly higher than me on your feelings for Moxley. I'm probably more 60, 65, but not too far apart, right?
Sure.
It just like I see the benefit of Danielson being the champion as well, right? I mean, him and Moxley, I think to someone who's not watching AEW, I'd say Danielson probably even has a little bit more cachet with the general audience than Moxley, especially with the name change since he left WWE. But we'll see. I mean, I think that, I don't know, that to me is a little too cute by half if he wins. I mean, I think Danielson can be a good champion, but I personally will feel a little let down. And who knows? It might be Moxley really just wants to go on that vacation and then come back. Cincinnati is October 18th, I think. Is that episode
that sounds about right.
Of Dynamite. So obviously he was going to re-premiere there, I would assume, after All Out.
Guess you could do a end of the show injury angle coming out of it.
Yeah. Or just like let him win and give him 2 weeks off.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that it doesn't seem like the end of the world either. And him on vacation will probably work like 17 GCW events anyway. So because that guy just loves pro wrestling.
Yeah.
So yeah, cool. Another thing, Amos coming in hot all episodes so far. There's speculation that Paul White is going to debut the Captain Insano gimmick tonight as well. So Drew, I will ask you your level of excitement on that from 0 to 5. As we are, I don't know. I don't think, I'd say we're similar age range of seeing The Waterboy in theaters probably. And that being maybe not a core memory for some, but I can probably quote that whole movie, but curious.
I would say I could give it an easy 3 out of 5. Just if it's short to the point, doesn't drag on with anything, maybe get the, QT Marshall out there or something, ranting and then have Paul squash him.
Yeah. I mean, I'm probably like a 1, so I kind of set you up to that I was more into this than I am. But, the main thing I'm looking for is it a modern day Captain Insano? Do they put a really bad wig on him? Which I'm hoping for the latter. I'm hoping they totally ham it up. He's got a really bad wig. He's got, the singlet on. They do the same.
The interview.
Yeah. I mean, it was Mean. Was it Mean Gene in the movie that was interviewing him?
It might have been. Yeah.
I thought because it had like the studio background.
Right.
Right. Will Henry Winkler appear? Will there be, water sucks? It really, really sucks, as I saw. Yes. As Matt said there. So didn't think we talked this much about Captain Insano. But
the entire championship football team.
Yes. Just punt. Anyway, we're going to recreate the whole thing of The Waterboy. You should go check it out. It's a very underrated Sandler movie. I don't think it's in the Pantheon per se, but Yes. So let's move on as I just tangent the whole conversation here. Let's go into another match. What I think is the co-main event. We've got the tag team championship. We've got Swerve in Our Glory taking on the Acclaimed.
Mm-hmm.
So before we get into the match, Drew, and I guess we can save it till the end because I've not heard your personal opinions about the whole backstage brawl and all that stuff. But let's hold that for later in the show. But your thoughts on the Acclaimed, let's say the last year, and kind of where you are now on them. Do you like their growth? Do you think it's do you not like the scissor bit, all that sort of stuff? So where are you on the Acclaimed?
More and more, I'm into them. I think they are the classic, without the indies part, like a homegrown team that they really just started from scratch and worked their way up over time. That's always good to see. And even with the tag team title situation being a little, funky right now with everything. It's good to see a team like that get their up and comings as they've been getting the regardless of the scissor thing or not. If you like it, it's gotten the crowd hyped. So,
Yeah. I'd say Senator Drew there with that answer, but if I can get to I think it's well known. I really enjoy the bit. I like a good comedy act, but as I've said, and I think they've heeded my words. Not saying they listen to this show, but doing the rap and being the comedy guys only gets you so far as a tag team. You can quickly be Enzo and Cass from a couple of years ago, where you do the same thing over and over again, and then you have a ceiling there. And I think the last couple of weeks, obviously Swerve and Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee have helped to push them and had a great match with them at All Out. Have this moment here, so I think they're on the right track to be, like you said, a homegrown tag team that feels special. This to me feels like the moment to do it. You're bringing it back for this reason. So this is feels like one of the bigger locks for me of the night is for the Acclaim to get a big victory here. How about you? What do you say?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can even see, I've kind of seen Swerve and Keith Lee as the placeholder in between. Good for them for getting the titles, and they're awesome. But just getting the placeholder over to the Acclaimed, and then I can see coming out of this, the Acclaimed will be huge if they win. It'll blow the roof off, and then beyond that, you could really do something with Lee and Swerve coming out of this, maybe like a singles feud or something between them. Just to keep the heat going with them.
That's what I was going to say. So we haven't seen a ton of that in AEW where the tag team breaks up and then the two members feud. This feels, especially what they teased when they first formed as a tag team. With their, it's kind of interesting to go there. Tony Khan, for all his flaws, maybe as a booker and a promoter and a creative genius, all that stuff, right? All his words, not mine. All the titles that he has. I don't think creative genius is the official title, but I digress. He thinks long term with this, so this might have been a story to plant early to then have them lose at some point and then have them feud as a sort of 6-month arc for the two guys. And compared to other people, in Andrade, Malachi Black formerly on the roster, at least it feels like he had a plan for them, and that's better than nothing for those guys. So that to me makes sense. My question is then,
who's the heel?
Who's the heel? I mean, I think So who do you think? I'll let you answer without even.
I don't know why, but I feel like Lee would be the heel, and maybe his promos lately, just his demeanor. But I can see him being the heel and Swerve getting a real nice babyface push off of it.
Yeah, and I think that is the kind of. I mean, either of them could be the face or the heel. I think that's why they work as professional wrestlers, and they're both super talented. But Swerve was the one that screwed Keith Lee in the beginning, threw him out of that battle royal or whatever the event happened when they first formed as a tag team. So, your mind goes to, well, then Swerve's going to be the guy to turn on Keith Lee and be the heel. But Lee then doing that as he is, I would say, the more over of the two from a babyface standpoint, is more impactful post match. And it won't be the most the most newsworthy thing coming out of the show, but it could be top 3, and that's pretty good, right? You could get 2 out of the 3 most newsworthy items out of the show from this match, which I think is a benefit and shows all 4 of those performers where they are right now and what they can do. So we will see.
I don't know if with the hype of it, I don't know if people are really realizing what could come out of this, what major events could happen. Like you said, newsworthy top 3 two of the top three things out of the show. I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then from a because I love my formatting questions before we see it. Would this open the show for you? Because that's what it seems like to me. I can go through the rest of the card for you. We'll talk about all of these individually, but we've got the 4-way for the women's title. We've got the All Atlantic Championship match with Pac and Orange Cassidy. We've got also the ROH title match, Claudio and Chris Jericho. So of those, plus this tag match, what are you, Drew, opening the show with tonight?
I have a feeling it's going to open with Jericho. Just get that big pop out the gate and get the crowd hyped, and I can see him even hitting the ring first, like right at the start of the show, and doing that match first. That's my guess. Very
good. Well, let's transition right into that match while we're here.
Yeah.
So, Jericho had once again, no matter what you think of Chris Irvine, the person, Chris Jericho last week had, I thought an incredible match for a 52-year-old guy. Obviously, having a match with Bryan Danielson helps tremendously to do that. I think you and I could get to a 2-star match with Danielson with just slapping the crap out of us for 20 minutes, right? So, so he's off that last week. He's got this match this week. Canceled. They relocated all of the Fozzy tour dates because he's obviously sticking around for the near future, right? He was supposed to be off the same time as John Moxley was. So does that, for both those guys, from the meta standpoint as Tony Khan, like he asked both these guys that are big draws to stick around because they were losing Punk and the Bucks and Kenny and all that stuff due to everything going on. So is there a reward for both these guys tonight to get the world title and the ROH title? And then is that like a plan for Jericho then to? Well, I can see your reaction there. So answer that, and then I'll ask you.
Okay, sure. I can see what you mean by that, but I can't see them booking towards people for their merit, I guess, as far as especially as far as championships go for storyline. I guess with this match, I can't see where you could take Jericho with the ROH title unless they're trying to do a storyline to hype up that brand. But I just can't fathom where that would go.
Well, the chat split, at least so far. We also have Steven coming in with the scissor me makes the Cobra look like a good gimmick. I would say if we get scissor hand things and they scissor each other with scissor things, then we probably are in the same boat there. But
thumb fingers.
Yeah, I agree with you on principle. I think Claudio retains here. I think building Jericho in this spot, I don't think it's the wrong way to go, but I would say the if I were to argue the other side via debate club style, Claudio winning felt like a career achievement award almost. I mean, I think it was the right call. He's a big star, and there wasn't a lot of room for him to get other titles, so it's easy to plop him in there, not beat Wardlow. The All Atlantic title is less prestigious than the ROH World title at this point, so it's the best thing for him to come in and get early in his tenure within AEW. But there's definitely, and also this is all about the ROH strategy within AEW of being muddled, it being really pushed, and then not pushed at all, really. And we're kind of in that phase, right? We've got Joe and Claudio and Daniel Garcia, three of the best workers in the company from different angles, right? Technical. Claudio is Claudio, and then Joe is a more of a prize fighter, I would say. You want to see him fight, but you're not going to get a 5-star classic out of Joe at this point. But with the ROH brand being muddled and kind of confusing, if you're Tony Khan, does Chris Jericho bring a light to that? And does Chris Jericho, I'm going to have you psychoanalyze him, but if I'm Chris Jericho, I want that title because I want to prove that I still got it and I can get this belt over more so than, Gresham did, more than Claudio has, etc. And in his mind, as a heel character, he might say he was the first champion that really made it important, like he was the first AEW champion. Right. So that is the story I could see them telling, and it gives Jericho something to do, especially if he's going to stick around. And he can, maybe the ROH title can be more prevalent on Dynamite and not live on Rampage like the tag team titles have recently. Sure. So that would be my pitch kind of here, but what do you think about that?
I could see that. It's just, I guess, without knowing much of the future of ROH at this point, like next pay-per-view, next what the plan is, where they're going. That could be the kickoff of it. Like I said before, it's hard to fathom it making sense, I think, at this point. And I agree with what you said about Claudio. And then somebody brought up earlier about the main event, Garcia being part of that because of Daniel Bryan. But I think the more of the storyline is between Jericho and Garcia at this point still. And if you didn't want to have Claudio get the clean win over Jericho on this, I can see Garcia maybe playing a role in this match more than the title world title match.
Yeah, and I think that would make sense, right? You want to keep that world title match pretty clean. It's between two guys in the Combat Club. You don't want it to be muddled in any sort of way.
Yeah,
I would say it's not. I think Triple H has been good in WWE compared to Vince, but that's definitely a WWE move at this time. Would be that finish, and I think people are, quick to, I think WWE's on the upswing as people are then transposing those kind of finishes on AEW, which I don't think will happen. But yeah, I think that's a great cause there. And a couple people here mentioned. Zach mentioned Jericho wins. Hope they have a TV deal. Amos said the only way Jericho would win is if they have a TV deal announced for Ring of Honor. So interesting. I've not heard. Let me know if you've heard any news about a TV deal. So one would think it's AEW property that Time Warner Discovery would be the first dibs on it. But I don't know if you saw the report this week that Comcast, NBC Universal was interested in buying Turner and Discovery and all that's in HBO.
Which could be real interesting.
Yes, because then what's the deal, right? They would own both properties.
Yeah.
The optimistic viewpoint would be, would we see some correlation between the two companies potentially there? The negative side would be WWE is a much stronger brand, so AEW would have to go off and do the ECW route where it's on TNN and then whatever, or it's on even worse, the Impact journey where it's on Access or, whatever. There's like a travel channel was on at one point there. I forget even the name of it. So
not to go on too much of a rant about it, but anytime it's mentioned, like when will the forbidden door between WWE and AEW be broken? I'm like, don't just, that's the piece of my wrestling I just want. Keep these companies at bay, and anything below those two is the forbidden door is not that much of a thing. I guess the New Japan was the biggest one, but then I think that would be a mess.
Yeah, for sure, and that's why I said facetiously the first part there. But
yeah,
hopefully it would work out here. So Hassan is asking if I saw Raw. I saw the highlights. As people know here, I don't watch all 3 hours of Raw. And I'm okay to admit that as a fan. But is there anything I needed to see? I mean, I listened to Wade Keller's great post-show recap, kind of what I do for Rampage, for those that don't watch Rampage but listen to me, so thank you. But I don't know if there's anything. I know there's lots of screwy finishes, so I know that's not the rebuttal here. So let me know. But Amos pops in here. He read today, and then please let me know where you read it. Not that I don't believe it. I just like to go read it myself, Amos. But that Tony Khan's been talking to Warner Brothers about ROH on a regular basis. I know he's done a ton of interviews that are not with Dave or Wade or SRS or anything. He's been doing the one Barstool guy.
Barstool Wrestling.
Yeah. Is what it is. And what else was he on recently? He was on another. Oh, he's with Ariel Helwani, right? Right. So, Zach popping in as we're on
Destination America.
Yes, as we're on just a stream of consciousness here. Yes, Destination America was the place that was post broken Matt Hardy Impact, I believe.
Yeah, that's where they have actually one of their. I guess you could call it a higher point in the company.
Yeah.
Destination America. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Okay, cool. So we're on the same page as on. He said outside interference all night on Raw this week. Yeah, of course, because that's just how it's been booked. So, okay. So I think any other thoughts on Claudio and Jericho? You're pretty, 90+% likelihood of Claudio winning here. Okay.
I think so. I think it'll be a great match. I couldn't remember. Do you remember if they ever touched in WWE?
I mean, they almost had to have, right?
I think so. Yeah.
I'm sure if someone wants to do cagematch.net and let us know, please do. Yeah. But I would think they almost had to have. And here's one thing. I've talked about the solo. I'd love to know your opinion, Drew.
Sure.
Your thoughts on Claudio's spinning move, the helicopter bit, where he spins him around the ring.
Oh yeah. I think I don't think it gets as much hype as it used to, for sure, and it seems to get cut off a lot more in AEW than it ever did in WWE. We'd usually be able to hit it every time there, but I could go without it. I mean, I don't think it's. I guess I just don't see it as very impressive at this point. But yeah, I could take it or leave it for sure.
Well, that's good. I tried to give it as flat as possible of a question to you. So I agree. I'm curious what the chat thinks. Please let us know, because this is kind of a little contentious when I first brought it up, but I think more people are agreement with us. And I don't think it's bad, but I think I agree with you, right? It felt more impressive in WWE. And not that it's not impressive. I mean, don't do this at home, kids, but try to pick up a human and spin them in a circle and not kill them, not drop them, not, dislocate their ankles, all that stuff. Very impressive. I mean, Claudio is one of the strongest guys, pound for pound, in the wrestling business ever, right? But I do think it puts a cap on him as a performer to have awesome matches, and then you kind of have this weird thing near the end where you spin the guys. Now, it's cool at the top of the ring. Yes, as is on. I was just about to say this. On the blood and guts match, to spin Jericho on top, I don't mind it. Just save it for a moment like that, or save it for if in psychology, if it somehow is his spinach and he's Popeye and that kind of powers him back up, whatever. But to make it special, not to have him wrestle, Josh Woods, who I'm a big fan of, but then just randomly or I guess that was Samoa Joe. But if he's wrestling someone like that, where it's hey, he's going to win, I think
having it.
Well, go ahead.
I was going to say having it maybe even more in a 6-man or battle royal type place where you can hit some guys with the other guy. I mean, maybe more effective that way.
Yeah, for sure. Or there's someone's holding a chair and they hit the guy as he's spinning him. There's fun things. Or if someone's got to stomp, to stomp someone and jump and do some combo like that. I mean, obviously make sure it's safe. Don't just backyard wrestle this whole thing, which they won't. But I just think it's him doing it sparingly could make it feel a lot more important and could elevate him as a performer, because his finisher is it's a submission move, right? I've seen him win multiple matches in AEW, and
he has the he have the gotch thing too?
And the sharpshooter, right?
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
Okay, I just I'm asking. I cover it. I do it right up on every show, and it's hard to just like Danielson right now. Is it the psycho knee is the finisher, or is it always the the label lock or the face lock, right? So not everyone needs to have that traditional 90s stunner rock bottom finisher, but it is interesting when your most well-known move never ends a match either, which I think might be the problem for me personally. Sure. It's like if Rock didn't have the rock bottom and did only the people's elbow, I think I levy the same complaint in real time. Obviously, everyone now it's lame. It's lame, but in a fun way, right? Because it's the Rock, right? So, so you're Gotch Pile Driver. Yes, thank you, Amos, and then Zach. I think the proper term, or no, it's a different one. The Ricola bomb, which is hilarious. He should. I mean, if he had that in WWE, he definitely would have the big wooden horn for sure, and they would have sponsored the segment. So that's a WWE thing. Okay, let's move on. Let's go to. So we talked about the three world titles. Let's go to the last world title on the line tonight. The interim women's world title. We got Toni Storm taking on Serena Deeb, Athena, and Britt Baker in a 4-way match. First question for you is this in the normal women's time slot on Dynamite? Is this happening around 9:10, 9:15? Or do we spice it up like we have the last couple of weeks, have the opening bout, what I think will be the tag team match, and then I think then a cool down match if you're Tony Khan, which will be probably the All Atlantic title in my opinion, or this match. So where do you think this is on the card?
I can see that's right in the middle, maybe 2 out of you'll have the main event match before the main event, and then this one, I believe. I think they'll still spice up the last hour or so with some good matches, but not saying this one won't be, just compared to the other ones on the card, it's definitely going to be a cool down of sorts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, so I would say, I mean, I'm more down on the women's division, I think, than most. I think most people are, but I'm just not afraid to say if it's like not good.
Sure,
I've been a big defender of the division, but I
it's
thought
like none of us want it to be. But
yeah,
just,
but like you don't be that guy who's like the men are better than the women, right? But that's like it is just like is currently we want it to be better, and I think last week, to be positive here, I think Athena looked the best she's ever looked in AEW in that tag match last week. She got a chance to shine. She wasn't just getting bodied by Jade, as she's kind of been her job the last couple weeks, and she got to show that off. Deeb was Deeb, Tony Storm, Britt is Britt. So I think the problem with all these performers, if I, can give my personal diagnosis, is like, Tony Storm feels like everything works to the hip spot in the corner.
Yeah.
Britt Baker, I think, has leveled off in the ring personally, and she doesn't get the heat if doesn't have the belt. She's like a reverse, and not a reverse heel. She's a heel, right? She needs the belt to be relevant and to be on TV, which is not really ever in front of the live crowd, which is always so interesting to me, to cut a promo. But Deeb is, a good worker, but is, lacking a little bit of charisma if she's not just totally abusing a over baby face. So all that being said, I did not know this, so I want to thank Hazan here, but give him free scoops. You don't have to go pay $5 on Twitch. SRS, Sean Ross Sapp, is teasing Paige here. That Paige is in Queens. So reckless speculation.
Sure. It's fun.
Go with it. What do you think?
First, trying to remember back. Is this just a slightly better version of the 4-way that they did at the pay-per-view? Because wasn't it a 4-way women's title match at the pay-per-view too? Yeah,
with Sheeta. And Tony and Britt and Jamie Hayter. So
you had that there. So I guess it's kind of it seems like a repeat match with different people, which comes to my head first. So I'm not very excited about it. I guess the belt could really go. There's only, let's see. I think there's only 2 of them really, either Tony retaining or Britt getting the belt back, that really makes, I guess, any sense right now. But there's just not a lot going into it. Not a lot of heat. There's the storyline, but it's all with Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter at this point. With Thunder Rosa being out, Tony Storm doesn't have that storyline going. So maybe you just keep it on her until Thunder Rosa comes back and they can finally have that match.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. As Tracy calls me out, yes, it was a joke, Tracy, but thank you. I will tread I would tread carefully. I think all the women. That's why I want to point out Athena, because I think she's been underutilized and not been able to show her prowess, and I think she said that last week. But I think it's the presentation that is the problem, right? All these women can have great matches, but the problem here is the story is Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker. So as a casual, as a moderate fan, you're waiting for Britt to get the glove on tonight, and spoiler alert for everybody. It's probably what's going to happen, right? She's going to have it ready to go, and Jamie comes out and screws her out of winning, and they start a feud or something like that. Maybe not during the match, but it'll happen before, after, whatever. And that's the main story, in my opinion, in the women's division at this moment. And because the interim titles are new, right? Moxley was the first one and only to have an interim title before Tony. And does Tony Khan want to switch interim titles? Does he want to have someone who got the original interim title not defend that against the champion, right? I don't think so. Kind of puts it in a weird zone. And, Tony has barely been able to cut a promo, tell us what she is as champion. And she talked more on the scrum than she has on TV, which is a problem. And she's just not a focal point. If you're going to put it on her and let her run with it, do it. Or if you have Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker be the main story, then put the belt on Jamie Hayter and have her defend it against Britt. Like, at this point, I don't think anything's off the table. And if that's your number one story, put the belt around it to try and elevate the belt on the number one story, in my personal opinion. But I just would like them to commit to something. And have a good A and B storyline in the division like they did in the past, and then get there. Because there's a point where we were good in the women's division, but now there's a lot going on. But I think the long run of AEW, Tony Khan has not shown that he particularly cares about the women's division.
Sure,
in my opinion.
And I think it could have been. I guess it's just to get them out there, exposure. But I don't get I think it could have been a lot more beneficial being maybe a Toni Storm Britt Baker title match and Jamie Hayter running that for her, and then like you said, then you have the Jamie Hayter Britt Baker storyline that doesn't need a title, and you can have the storyline for Tony and whoever's next or Thunder Rosa. But I just don't understand another 4-way coming out, especially when we have one at the pay-per-view.
Correct, with almost no build to it.
Yeah,
you had a tag match. It feels like a Raw episode broken up into 2 weeks, right? Usually on Raw, you'd have like a tag match that would turn into a 4-way match, or vice versa, right? You'd have 2 people that have a match and then it turns into a tag match, whatever. That's what this feels like, and it feels that's kind of the lazy booking I'm talking about. It feels like Tony is like signing off on stuff, but really committed to some of the men's stories, and then just like allowing someone with WWE mentality to book the women's division. And you got one segment on Dynamite, one on Rampage, and that's just my personal opinion. So.
He's got Teddy Long with him. That's what it is. Tag team match play.
There you go. Undertaker. Who's the female Undertaker on the roster? Don't answer that. All right. Zach asking. So he's asking if Mercedes Fernando shows up. So I don't think so, but let's dovetail this.
Sure.
If Paige is there, what do you think happens? What does she do? When does she appear? And then do you like that? Do you not like that? Just kind of give me your full thoughts on if Paige is there. Sorry to anyone that didn't want to read the report, but we're talking about it. You're on a pre-show for a wrestling show.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
it. It's expected. This is what we do. I don't, because I think we're both in agreement. We're almost sure that the match is the Britt Baker and
Jamie Hayter.
That's going to be at least part of the ending, I would think. And I don't know how you would, if you put Paige in there at that time, I don't know if it'd be too much that you're trying to do, or if she just come out when somebody's got the belt and like do a face stare down with them, like I'm coming, or is it just even at a different part of the show, just being like, here's who we've signed and hit the music.
Yeah. I think Zach asked an important question. Can Paige wrestle? I think she's cleared. I mean, that's a 2-way question, right? But I think physically she's able to, if I'm not mistaken. I think just like the last round of WWE people that were doing stuff in front of the camera with Danielson and there's an Edge of recent note, Christian, people that kind of got cleared after we thought they were retired.
And you have to ask cleared where.
Yeah, also, right. So it depends on. I think the way AEW runs things, I think it really the check's clear, and then the wrestlers are cleared for the most part. Yeah. So as long as you're not biting people, I think you're allowed through that door at this point. So
right.
So yeah, we'll see. But I think her coming out and staring down Toni Storm, who I think will win after Jamie Hayter, that's a big pop, and. Paige will feel like a huge star. I mean, she is, but it's kind of a re-solidification of that. If the crowd will go crazy for that, and that's what the division needs, right? Because I think right now, beating Jade Cargill is more important than the world title at this point, because that's the only thing that has been given any meaning in the women's division. So Paige coming in and maybe getting the title can change my opinion on that if she's pushed and can work still, but. I think it could be a very positive moment for that. Because like when your women's champion's good, when your tag team champion's good, when your world title singles stories are good, they don't all have to be 5 out of 5-star matches all the time. Like if you have those 3 are good stories going into pay-per-views, or if you have a 6-week period and 2 out of those 3 there's good stories going on during those times, like you get a healthy wrestling company. Yeah. And I think it's been a big thing of the tag team divisions we talked about a lot. The men's world title and the women's division have definitely all never been in sync and good at the same time. Maybe 1 out of the 3. And I think AEW's still been good, but just like seems like missing potential is how to stack your roster and all that stuff. So
if something like that happens with the you do the Jamie Hayter angle and then you have the Page angle at the end, then it would be just like you mentioned with the tag team match. You're going to have two decent, if not top stories coming out of even that match. So 2 matches are creating all kind of buzz for your company that's not even in the main event.
Yeah. I made a joke at first about the Page here thing. If you're Tony Khan, are you telling her, please, for the love of God, just don't walk out and say Page here? Paige, I know, yeah. I know that's what you're thinking about doing. I'm Tony Khan, you're Page. That's what I'm telling her, is don't do that. What are your instincts if you're Tony Khan?
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do a lot of what came later in her career. I'd say just pretend that didn't happen. You know, go back to your NXT debut on the main roster kind of mindset, and anything they've filled your head with as a commissioner or anything else, just, you know, leave in your bags for now.
Come out, be a badass, and take people out. I think
and that's all we ever want to have anyway, right?
Yeah.
Come out and be a badass.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yes, and obviously, she's not going to be going by Paige.
Hopefully, she doesn't use her last name either.
Yeah, so
no offense.
We shall see. But one would think there. So the only match that's announced that we haven't gotten to is last, for a good reason, in my opinion. But we've got the All Atlantic Championship. We've got our favorite Brit on the roster, Pac, taking on our favorite. I don't even know where Orange Cassidy's from. I'd like to think like Orange, California, which that'd
Orange
be perfect.
County,
Orange County, California. I'll look it up. But what are your thoughts on this match?
I think this is an easy one that I think they'll do well. They've had matches in the past where those two styles, in Pac's just angry bastard persona up against Orange Cassidy's whole gimmick. I think it's a perfect. You may not think on paper it would be a perfect match, but I think it really is, because they can do a lot of stuff in the beginning that kill a lot of time with a lot of easy entertainment. And then, both of them can wrestle really well, so then have a really great match after that. But I don't think there's any way Pac's going to lose that title.
Yes. And I agree. Hassan is right. He's from Stewartsville, New Jersey. New Jersey is home of, when in doubt, a wrestler's probably from Ohio or from New Jersey, in my experience. So hotbed.
New Jersey or Florida, right?
Yeah, of talent. So I agree with you. I think some interesting. A lot of comments here. I always judge kind of the interest level in matches by comments as we're talking about it. And I thought this had some good comments. Match I'm not interested in, but the Firm need to come out and destroy Pac after the match. Ethan Page is waiting in the wings as he's elaborated. All that sort of stuff. I think everyone thinks Pac wins and then Page is next. So, definitely be a good match, but a more standard Dynamite match where it is there. I think this is your second match. I think you have the tag team match and then this, and then like Claudio Jericho to 9:00 hour women's match main event. It's kind of how I would I'd probably flip and not put the women's match in the same spot every week. But besides that, that's kind of the hierarchy of where this show is. So let's talk about the Firm. It got brought up here in the comments. Your thoughts on Stokely's promo last week, and then your thoughts in general about the Firm as a group, and what do you think?
I think it's an interesting group to put together. I think it's really cool that I like the fact that they almost have it leveled where MJF's at a level here where he's just putting this group on retainer. I thought that was a really cool storyline to put into that, so you don't have to completely link them and have MJF with a stable, which he obviously doesn't need right now. Stokely's promo was good and interesting, but it just seemed, I remember watching it and thinking, is he still talking? Like, it just seemed to be really long-winded for some reason. I kind of just lost what he was going with at that point. So I don't know where they plan on taking this. It was kind of all of a sudden. So I guess more stories down the road for this. But right now, I'm not too invested in it, I guess.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think you're kinder than me again on this, but
right, sure.
I think the group itself is just a line of people that my initial instinct, and people that listen to me on this platform probably know this, so I'll blast past it, but I felt bad for Ethan Page. I think that guy's super talented, a great talker. I'm confused why he continues to have a mouthpiece in a group with a mouthpiece where he's not the one talking, because I think, especially like to sell a random match that doesn't matter, where you almost know he's going to lose every time, like that guy is so good at selling that match week in, week out, and I think he's just underutilized. And if he's, if I'm picking a group of 10, 12 guys on this current roster, I think Page is on that list over some more notable names at this point, just because I know what I can get out of him and know he can talk and all that stuff. So, and just a bunch of guys that haven't done a lot of winning, have been in comedy spots with the Gun Club, have not been anywhere with Moriarty. Morrissey has a lot of baggage. I think his new look is great, but he's like the Matt Cardona who didn't do the full Matt Cardona, in my opinion. Like,
sure,
Cardona, when he reappears for WWE as Zack Ryder at some point, I think is going to be in a surprisingly huge pop. And I don't think that Morrissey was exactly at that point yet. And, good run with Impact and stuff, but there's just something missing, and I can't put my finger on it. And if he's like the heavy of the group and Page is your main guy, no one's been built to be that, it feels like Jay Lethal in his group, right? Like Jay Lethal's a guy who loses to bigger talent. It feels, better than the Trustbusters, but Daivari is the number one guy in that group, and he's going to almost always lose. They're better than the Wingmen, but Ethan Page versus all the members of the Wingmen, like I could see him surprise losing to one of those guys at one point, to somebody. So it just feels not great to me. So one other question I have, besides maybe a musical performance tonight, which hopefully we don't have, we've got those 5 matches. I think it's 5, right? That we talked about. 1, 2, 5.
Yeah.
We have to get an MGF segment, right?
I would.
If so, what's the subject matter?
I would hope so, and I think it's going to be probably title based, and he has been directing it towards Moxley since he came back, and Punk's gone. So even if it's just a quick backstage, I don't even think with you still have Friday night, and with the card the way it is, I don't think you necessarily need to have him do an in-ring promo. Maybe just a quick backstage. Yeah.
Let's say let's go out on a limb here. Let's say he comes out and is in the ring. Give me a cheer boo ratio from a percentage standpoint for him, just when he comes out, before he even talks.
I think when he comes out it's going to be 75% cheers, if not more. I feel like almost even sometimes people are like cheering and then booing because they like to hate him so much, if that makes sense.
And then they'll call liking the heel. Yeah, they call everyone a fat lard and
hit on some New York teams and do the thing.
It's like, I wish I was in Long Island. So that's kind of, and Zach, I think, is mirroring my opinion here, because if you want him to be a heel, I think you certainly can't have him come out here and like you said, maybe a backstage promo, or maybe the musical number is him. Right? Maybe he's.
Oh yes.
Maybe he's singing again. No, I'm just kidding. But so on those interviews, Tony Khan has said that Max it's basically a Money in the Bank situation. That chip, you can cash it in whenever.
Is that new to that?
Well, I think. I mean, it's wrestling, right? Whatever. Yeah, I don't think he came out in a devil mask and took it after his. But I would like that to be announced on the TV show at some point, and not be the same sort of thing, not just for people like you and me, people watching here, but like I enjoy wrestling. I'm not listening to every Tony Khan interview. So like you have to go listen to, wrestling on Barstool to know that, I think is a big problem. So hopefully that's talked about. I'll stop talking about that. Now, if that is the case and you keep him off the show and that is known, maybe you have that backstage promo where he says, hey, I can cash this in whenever. And then you don't see him the rest of the night, and then they have the match. Then does he come out and do a stare down and cash it in or not cash it in? Like if I know you just found out about this possibility, so I don't need A+ material from you, but like, what are you pulling the trigger and have him cash in tonight, or are you not having him cash in tonight is my question.
No, I definitely wouldn't. I think even if it's easier to say, or they're doing the Rampage back to back with this tonight, right?
Yeah.
The taping.
Yeah.
I don't think you could do that cash in, have that huge moment, and then be like, hey, now we're going to have our next TV show.
Yeah. Hey, Eddie Kingston, get out here and get the crowd fired back up. I mean, he probably could, especially in New York. Eddie's super over. But yeah, I mean, and yeah, do you want to do that? Is that like, and you don't have to. I mean, I think most AEW shows end on a high note and a positive note for fans.
Mm-hmm.
So having that, but does he get cheered? Like if you have Moxley go this whole way and then like again it's taken away from him as soon as he gets it, and then MJF comes out, like that might be the only way to get MJF booed. Yes, but if he gets cheered while it happens, like I don't know what.
It really gives that feeling too of then I understand the circumstances, but then the whole quoting hot shotting the title, then it's really starting to like bounce around a little bit. And I'm always against that by any means necessary.
And not to go super deep in the annals of wrestling history, but let's talk about our friend Phil Brooks. That's Punk's last name, right? Phil Brooks is his Christian name? Okay. Yeah. But, he beats John Cena at Money in the Bank, right? Leaves, comes back. They have a reunification match between the two of them at SummerSlam, if I have my timeline correct there, in 2011.
Yeah, sounds...
Someone let me know if I'm incorrect there. Punk wins, unifies the titles. Mm-hmm. Then Alberto Del Rio comes out with a Money in the Bank, takes the belt off of him, and Alberto Del Rio is your champion. And you kind of just squander that whole run that you had of Punk. And you're like, what the hell? I thought this company was like, so
they thought they needed a bigger pop than it was, and it was already just a classic, real somebody won a match pop.
Yeah, and that's and that's Vince McMahon, not Tony Khan. So I know that. So, but like, not to say it's exactly the same thing, but for people like me, and it's just my personal opinion, like Dean Ambrose in WWE was not a fan of. Obviously, he talked about that a lot. John Moxley when he left the company, how he didn't like that character either. He definitely hated the stupid rope thing that Kyle O'Reilly's happy to do. But, he has won me over big time in this run, in his first title run. Just been like just a rock in a professional wrestling. I just think he is one guy in the last decade that has just totally flipped, and someone I used to not enjoy watching at all on TV to being one of my favorite guys, and what I think is one of the best professional wrestlers of the last 20 years, bar none. And to do that, if you have him win a third time and then pull it away from him again to have MJF win, I think it's a real dicey proposition for at least people like me, fan wise, analyst wise. I'm going to keep watching, but it would tell me like Tony Khan is still locked in his long-term story instead of like kind of listening to the fans and knowing what's the right way to go. If you have Moxley win and then go on and lose at a pay-per-view, I can understand that more. But that's just me personally. So I'm curious your thoughts on everything I'm saying there and what your vibe is on that.
I don't know why this came into my mind while you were saying that. You could even really go, I'm not condoning any of this by any means, but let's just say you did want him to cash in. So there would have to be some foolery somewhere. But let's say Bryan wins the match and then MJF cashes in on him, takes the title off of him, and then in the meantime of who's going to fight MJF for the title, you got Bryan and Moxley sitting here. Well, I'm the champion. Well, yeah, but you're the champion for like 10 seconds. Like I should have the title, and then they could, maybe have a follow up.
Yeah, I mean that is definitely a more palatable way, and I didn't even really think about it, right? Too.
Sure.
Because I don't feel the same way about Danielson if he wins for 10 seconds. And then loses, right?
Right, yeah, exactly. So Moxley's like, well, I'm really champion.
Yeah. So that's one way to
get another match out of him,
We could get a crappy triple threat if you go that way.
Yeah.
I don't think. Yeah. I mean, Tony Khan they have main evented with a triple threat for the world title. So already
they haven't done anything on a pole yet.
That's true. So always possible. That seems like a Jericho will do a pole match before anybody, in my opinion. When he's on one of those off, when he's done have a group to do it, he'll do against Eddie Kingston or something. He'll do a singlet on a pole match or something like that. But so interesting. I think that is besides the main event, it's obviously the MJF question and all that stuff. I'm curious to see how he's accepted by the live crowd. I think after last week, I hope that he's pivoted. I've not watched any of his interviews. I don't know if you have. I know he was with Ariel Hawani as well.
Very little. Yeah. More of that one than I did the wrestling one.
Yeah. I just wonder if, I think he knows he can't just call everyone the lard ass and get over as a heel at this point. I mean, that's like his bag of tricks when he was getting booed when he's getting cheered when he thought he'd get booed. So I'm curious to see what his tactics are going to be if he is in front of the live crowd before the main event or before he tries to cash in or anything like that. So that's one thing I'm interested in for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I said I would come back to it. So I've not heard your opinion, Drew, on the altercation backstage. Everyone's got an opinion and other body parts as well. So what are you? So what are your top line thoughts on that? And just maybe more of a reference. Like, where you at with AEW, its management, all that sort of stuff? Because I think this, for me at least, and I think for everyone else, has been maybe a little bit of a turning point in where this company is, where it's going, for the good, for the better. It's a fork in the road. So what's your take on this? Or is that all hyperbolic?
No, I think as far as when it broke and everything going on, as far as being a wrestling junkie and news guy, that's the stuff you just like ask for. Like, yeah, let everything go crazy. But it's disappointing. Like, I think it's put a whole new light on the company. I like how Tony's been able to handle it, and instead of trying to promote anything off of it or use something off of it, he just shoved all of that to the side and said, okay, we're going to keep doing everything with the pieces that we have right now and not mention them anymore until we figure it out. As far as the whole fight goes, I don't even know. I heard you would always hear the rumors of the backstage stuff and there being heat and everything, but I just didn't think it was anything that was that big of a deal. Maybe overblown. And then you hear something like this and it's shocking. I guess that's the way I put it. It's really shocking. And just, they keep saying, well, when the truth comes out, but I think we all know pretty much most of what the story, how it went down. Just didn't know there was that much tension amongst all of them. And it's really disappointing to know that was the company we thought was going to do everything right and for the wrestling and buy the wrestlers, and then poof.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's good to some realistic expectations for any wrestling company that's controlled by one person, right? Everyone is infallible. No one's infallible. And that is what it is. I'm wearing a Kenny shirt tonight, so that kind of tells you, people that listen to me know kind of where I stand. It's just a good shirt because I love the Terminator. Yeah. This is the Terminator shirt. But yeah, I mean, I think I
agree with that too, by the way. Your stance is.
I think that's, I mean, not to say I'm right about everything, but Punk, I'm a big Punk fan, and he seems pretty much in the wrong.
I think that's the disappointment of it, especially it was exciting and fun to watch that scrum just because of what was happening. But that was definitely, I almost had my mind made up about the situation before the news of the fight even broke, just because it was ridiculous.
For sure. So I again, I think you're generous, and I like the way you said that. It was kind of like the Tony Khan is not going to therapy. It's just like bottling everything up, and he's pushing through it. Forget about that trauma. Put it back there.
He's already got that crazy eye to it.
Yeah, do some ayahuasca. I'm not saying Tony Khan does ayahuasca. I'm thinking Aaron Rodgers knows whatever.
He's with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, do that later. Open your third eye. You'll be good to go. So that's what we're doing with AEW tonight, right? We're all going to collectively. That'll be all out 2024. There's instructions when that's legal in all 50 states. You can take your ayahuasca and watch the show, and we'll all open our third eyes and all that good stuff. So
yes. Do you think, with that being said, do you think at the end of this, I guess you would call it week between Rampage and Dynamite, do you think we'll have like a definitive, like, oh, everything's okay? Or will it be kind of like, oh, they're still a little clunky and trying to fix things up? Yeah,
I mean, like Zach had said here, the reset of the company in one way or the other. Yeah, redo of All Out. Yeah, I mean, I think as soon as Moxley had that promo, which is why I'm so high on Moxley at this point, told me that, and then Tony Khan not, like you're saying, I agree with you. The not making a big deal about it, not using it to build a match, one would think, I think that he probably knows that his management style has not worked perfectly, and that he maybe needs to rely on other people than he has or whatever. But yeah, I think the in-ring product the last couple of weeks has felt more like early AEW, minus opening with a 10-man tag match that has 35 tope suicidas. That's classic AEW to start with that, which I liked. Sucks to write a report for, but it has felt more like old AEW than and I'm not saying it's all Punk's fault, but it definitely felt like a certain different version of AEW, especially when we're trying to fit the Cole and Page storyline. It just was clunky there for a long period of time, and now it feels like a little bit more smoother, a little bit more organic. Like these are the people we're choosing, etc. So I think Tracy's, I think Matt Seidel's opening the third eye there. For sure. Sorry. So I'm already there pretty much. And I think, Danielson or Moxley, it's a good match because anyone could win. And I think either of them are good representatives of the company, would be good locker room leaders, in my opinion, if you want that to be a thing.
Sure.
So Zach is asking, do the Elite return tonight? I ask you the same question, Drew.
I can't see it happening. I think it's too soon. Even if they have everything figured out, there's still got to be some kind of it hasn't been that long, so some kind of time frame. And if you're going to have suspensions, I think they're going to have a little more time than this, maybe even up till the pay-per-view.
For sure. I mean, it's not even been a month. I think it'd be at least a month. And same thing with Punk. I think that not being announced because he's injured, right? Legally, you can't suspend someone who's injured, and probably.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So maybe if he's with the company, when he's cleared, he would then be suspended for the same period of time, is my guess. But that's just me guessing. Don't read into that. I don't have any sources on that. I think Amos has a great point here, which I did not bring up. AEW's doing fine without Punk or the Elite, which says a lot about the brand itself, which I agree. Sure. We got through. I mean, the ratings the last couple of weeks have been way higher than I thought they were going to be. The initial post All Out was barely over 1 million, and I thought that would be a crazy number based on just people seeing what the heck is going on, which proves how much of a bubble about 1 million of us are in, I would say, and how important this is to us. But last couple of weeks, 1.1 something, and it was it over 1.2 last week?
So and they've been better shows. They've been more entertaining top to bottom
for sure. And I think that's why I'm on the page of I think the company's already in a better spot with picking a couple guys to build around. Jericho's got a story that's interesting. Moxley, Danielson, Eddie Kingston, what have you. There's 6-7 guys that you build around, and again, do a better job with the women's division. I think the tag team division needs more than 2 teams at any given time as well. Figure out your FTR situation. But there's always places to improve. I think it's in a good spot. I'm curious with Zach, a month, shaking my head. I don't know, Zach, do you think that's too low or too much?
Right.
Usually we're somewhat aligned on stuff, but I'm being a former manager of a crappy retail entertainment job, sometimes you got to do suspensions that you don't really believe in, but you got to save face and not get sued, I guess, is the main thing there. Sure. So if you want to suspend Punk for that length of time, whatever length of time, you almost have to match it with the guys that are there, which is boring. But so we got about 15 minutes. Drew, is there anything that I've been leading this whole conversation? Is there anything that you've been wanting to talk about within AEW, outside AEW? We're on a pre-show, but any sort of I don't know if you watch College Game Day or anything like that, but any sad wrestling stories that you want to focus on and make us all feel bad about ourselves because someone? No, I'm just kidding. So we don't have Pat McAfee here, but anything you want to talk about within AEW? I mean, we haven't talked at all about Rampage. Is there anything on Rampage that you're looking forward to? I can pull up the card.
Yeah, if you want to pull up the card for that, just to follow up on what you were saying, it seems like there was a time between the first Double or Nothing and maybe the first year of Dynamite where everything felt like, okay, here's the guys we have, here's the locker room, let's put these pieces together, make it work. And you're right, it felt kind of organic, and I felt like, and not because of him, but just the time frame when Punk got there and things started to get a little bloated. It started to fall off a little bit. I could just see it like wasn't must-see wrestling every week again. And now that they've almost been forced into this situation they're in, I think they're getting, like you said, back to that like organic feeling they had before.
For sure. So there's 5 cards on the show tonight.
Mm-hmm.
It is pouring rain. We're pretty close. Is it pouring rain where you are right now? I don't know if you can hear it.
Not yet.
We're far away. So good luck, New York, and hopefully it's not there within 4 hours because that show's going to be going until midnight or 1 o'clock. But as I choke, so there's 5 matches on the card tonight. How many matches are on the Rampage card, if you had to guess?
I would say I saw it before. I'm thinking there's 5. Is there also 5?
There are 8 matches.
8
on Rampage, yes. So in total, we have a traditional AEW pay-per-view. So if you're there live, you're there 4 hours. You're watching probably Dark Elevation as well currently.
Oh,
but
right.
Yes, you have 13 matches in a 4-hour period. So the headliner there, Sammy and Eddie, in my opinion, of actual like good matches. That's been a story, obviously, with some backstage stuff. They've worked it out. We also have Sting and Darby taking on the remaining members of House of Black, Buddy and Brody. You got Action Bronson and Hook taking on the JAS, Matt Menard and Angelo Parker.
Be fun.
Got Cargill taking on Diamante, who's bringing a friend, she said last week. We've got Ray Phoenix taking on Jungle Boy for some reason. We've got Powerhouse Hobbs taking on Ricky Starks once more. Wardlow, Samoa Joe taking on Tony Nese and Josh Woods. So RIP to those two.
Yeah.
And then we have the Golden Ticket Battle Royal, which the winner gets a future AEW World Title match, which will probably open the show, I would guess.
Yeah.
So, so what match would you like to discuss? We've got about 9 minutes. So
sure. Oh man. What do you think about do you think it'll be anything newsworthy for the mystery Diamante Jade Cargill?
Well, I don't know. I mean, here's the problem, right? I mean, anything newsworthy is going to get out. There's going to be 15,000 people there, right? So
valid. Yeah.
So anything there, I would not premiere Paige there. I would do it at the so sorry, I keep calling her Paige, but I think everyone gets a 6-week notice to not call them by their old wrestling name.
Yeah. You're still calling him Theory, right?
Yeah, for sure. But I would do that there. She's a big star. You don't want to put it there. Also think whoever wins the golden ticket, you're not going to be world champion because that's something that was won on a pre-recorded show, so everyone's going to know about it. If you're interested in it, if it's Adam Page or whoever it's going to be, whatever. What
would your thoughts be on if through some kind of shenanigans or whatever that MJF snagged that one too?
He just gets back-to-back title shot. Yeah. He gets pinned and then can start the match right over again.
Right. Yeah. Here's my ticket. Here's your chip. Here's my ticket.
Yeah. I mean, that tells me Vince McMahon is a consultant for WWE or for AEW at that point. So yeah. I don't think that's going to happen. But
yeah,
I think we're more likely to see someone that's somebody that's starting a Charlie. From Charlie and the Chocolate Factory character that wins the golden ticket and does that whole bit, or Willy Wonka. If Jeff Hardy comes back as Willy Wonka or something weird like that. So, which I think that's a potential. Hardy's been teasing him to come back, and I think if he's good to go, that's obviously the most important thing. Make sure that he's able to perform. Maybe don't jump off as many ladders where you. Anyway, hopefully Jeff's good. Yeah. But that would probably help the tag team division, or if you want to push Jeff in that role, I think that'd be an interesting way for him to come back. So we'll see there. But I think whoever it is going to lose to in my opinion, whoever wins tonight, Moxley or Danielson, will face whoever wins this battle royal and then face MJF, down the line past that point. So, if it's
get a little push off.
Yeah. If it's Preston Vance, then we are where we are because Andrade helps him, and that's how he joins the group. If we're talking about that kind of story, that's unfortunately what Rampage is. So,
one more quick question: I saw the Tim R said Somebody and Brody the Moon this year. I guess it's just too soon after, but do you think continuing with the House of Black thing? Do you think that's now that Mr. Black is no longer with them? Do you think that's a feasible thing to continue with?
I think so in the right context, right? So
Sure.
I don't know if it's a hot take or whatever. I like Malachi.
Yeah.
I think, I don't want to talk about, he has said a little bit of mental health stuff that's been more reported than he said it. So I don't want to speculate, but it tracks from what it seemed like he was, and we've all been there with our jobs where you're not like fully motivated because of any number of things, right? So
Sure.
I got that feeling, and it felt like Tony Khan at least felt the same way about him as well, and didn't want to push him to his full extent, which I think we all thought his potential could be. And I think that hurt Brody and Buddy based on the booking of Malachi, right? But I think the group, especially with Julia Hart, I think this could be a big moment for her to kind of spiritually take over that, and maybe not have the kind of the promos that never really made any sense, which is fine. People liked it, but kind of do that group, but change it up a little bit. Maybe they'll stealth change the name to HOB or something. And if Julia Hart is controlling these two, monsters, and they're a tag team now, and they could be tag team whatever. I think all that could work really well. And I think it could be a silver lining in this whole situation, because both those guys are super talented. I think Julia Hart is way over with the crowd.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been to a AEW live yet.
Not recently.
No. So super over. One of the most like kind of surprisingly over people on like a Dark Elevation taping was Julia Hart in a match up in Cleveland a couple weeks ago. So I think there's potential there for her to be over in that capacity, and then get Brody and Buddy over and commit to them. If you want to pick 6 tag teams, I think that is one of the 6 tag teams you can pick, with the Lucha Bros, with the Acclaimed, with depending what Swerve in Our Glory's doing, FTR. Depends what the Bucks are status is at a certain point. But there's other teams I'm missing there, but they're up there in the upper echelon, in my opinion, of tag teams. So
is FTR on either of these shows? Did I miss that from Rampage?
Let me see. No FTR. So
must be some good reasoning behind it, I would hope. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, again, reckless speculation, as I flip my words. They were reported to be big on Punk's side of a lot of issues backstage, right?
Sure.
So I'm not saying this is a stealth ban or anything, but if they are seemingly hard to deal with, and that's just me speculating, right? That's really the only reason not to have them on a show. They're super over. They're great talents. There's got to be some sort of disconnect in that way. Or one of them is, Dax has wrestled solo recently. Cash, maybe he's not 100%, whatever. But something's up. And Triple H, I think they're pretty good. Pretty tight with Triple H. That's like another. I wouldn't be surprised if we see them back in WWE and have a huge push there at some point in the future too, because they are obviously in needing of tag teams. So it could be one of those things where if you're Tony Khan and hey, they might be leaving, maybe his mindset as a booker is not to totally bury everybody on the way out, and be respectful and keep that bridge unburnt.
Sure.
And since there's 2 things in town, he seems like that kind of person to me, at least. Maybe not that kind of booker, but I don't see Tony Khan like burying people on TV out of spite. So that's kind of
I see him like giving them hugs as they're walking out the door and saying, "See you again soon."
Yeah. Like, hey, when you need a $500,000 pay bump, give me a call. I'll help you out, because I'll give you an offer, and then Triple H can match it for you. So, that would be unfortunate. I think without any sort of explanation, it's one of the biggest like disasters of 2022 from a booking standpoint. If it's literally just like there's just I cannot see Tony Khan being like, they don't need to be on the show. I need a Wardlow tagging with Samoa Joe match. That's got to be on the show. I need a, whatever. Let me look here. They're all pretty good matches, but I need Action Bronson on the show.
Yeah.
But I don't need FTR. That just seems crazy. So.
We'll use Sting again, which always gets a big pop, but we'll use the 60-year-old guy again.
Yeah. Like if FTR and him, if they were able to work, and I don't know if they're able to or just not cleared, or if it's an issue between them. Like if everything's hunky dory, they're on the show tonight and they're taking on, the Briscoes. Like, because the Briscoes ROH, then they have to be somewhat okay to be on Turner networks, right? With all the stuff. I'm like, I'm building to a huge match like that, and having maybe I'm dropping the All Atlantic title and that's going to Rampage. Like that's what I'm doing. So something else has to be going on. So
yeah,
I think that's a great place to leave it. Drew, thank you for joining me. Please tell all the people your Twitter, where to follow you, all that good stuff.
Yep, you can follow me easily. Let's see if I can do this at Drew Ortman on Twitter. I think it's at Drew B. Ficus on Instagram, and maybe someday ProWrestlingJournal.com again. We'll see if that's a thing that can come around. But yeah, thanks for having me. This has been really awesome. A lot of fun.
Well, thanks for being here. Very excited for tonight's show. I thank everyone in the chat for joining us, and those that did not enter the chat. We are doing. It's new, but Zach Hayward and I are trying to do a Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown preview show before every episode. So appreciate you joining us, Drew. Appreciate you joining me. It's a standing invitation. I like talking to someone else as opposed to me just talking for an hour and just reading people's comments. But so I appreciate you joining me. And
anytime,
and everyone out there, enjoy the show. Paige here, MJF here, and go Mox, I would say. So we will see everybody next time. You can call into the Wade Keller post show. That'll be, I'm sure, a good thing tonight. Check out Wade's report. You can call that number there to listen in, or listen on Spotify and iTunes, all that good stuff afterwards. So for Drew, I'm Tyler. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you later.